What's going on, folks? This is Jamiel Cal-Pin of Cal-Pin Creations with another video to help you start making quality audio content on a budget. Whether it's a podcast, an audiobook, or a song, cost doesn't have to stop you from creating your next project. In this video, I want to talk about the 5 bad podcast practices. Okay, so these are 5 bad podcast practices that I've noticed. I'm sure maybe there's some other bad podcast practices out there that you're aware of or things that you hear on your favorite podcast that maybe you don't really like. But these are 5 that really stand out to me from all the podcasts that I've listened to, and that kind of irk me as a content creator and as an audio engineer. These are definitely things that I wish people would spend more time trying to fix or trying to avoid. The first one, low volume. So the thing about podcasting, it's all about what you hear. It's all audio, whether it's conversations with people talking or somebody recording a solo podcast. The level of your volume is super, super important. And if it's too low, if I have to turn up my headphones all the way or my car stereo all the way, or even if I'm listening on like YouTube and I have to turn up my computer volume all the way, that is annoying. That is annoying. All I want to do is sit and listen to what you're saying. So having the right volume is super important. Having low volume, too low to hear conversations or hear comments or hear other things that people are saying, especially if it's something like, maybe like jokes that people are saying or other things that add to the conversation, add to the experience of the podcast. It's so important that you hear those things. If it's too low, I'm missing out on all of the good stuff that I'm trying to hear. So definitely bad practice number 1, low volume. Bad practice number 2, relative and close to number 1, low volume, is high volume. When something is way too loud, that's a problem for 2 reasons. Say the podcast that you're listening to and it's at a regular level, but then they start shouting or start yelling or something like that. And the thing just gets so loud that you have to turn your knob down. I don't want to have to do that. I don't want to have to keep adjusting my knob because something is too low or something is too high. You want it right in the middle, right sweet spot, so that as I'm sitting and listening to your content, I don't have to do anything but sit and listen to your content. So the first thing is like having to adjust. And the second issue with having high volume is that if you're recording a podcast at too high of a volume, it will start to what is called overmodulate. And that means the microphone that you're recording into, whether it's an actual microphone or your cell phone or even like recording on your camera or anything like that, that means there's too much audio information or too much energy going into the microphone and it's overwhelmed. It's overwhelmed. It's overmodulated. There's too much content coming. There's too much energy coming in and your microphone can't take it. And it starts to get this distorted sound and distorted, quality. And it's not good. We don't like to hear things like that because that's not how we hear things in real life. If something is overmodulated, if something is way too loud, it hurts our ears. And with microphones, the technology is kind of responding in the same way. Whatever the sound is, it's too much. It's too much and it hurts me. It's the same way. That's not good stuff. Every once in a while, it may happen, especially if you have like a group of people. Say it's a group conversation or a group, group podcast. There may be moments where things get overmodulated or get too loud, but constantly throughout the whole show or throughout the whole episode, that is not good. That is a bad practice. We don't want that. We don't want that. We don't want too high of volume, whether it's recording or on the playback. Third thing, bad music and speech mix. So what I mean by that is on some podcasts, people will have like introduction music or music playing in the background. There needs to be a good balance that you can hear the music and that you can hear those who are talking. There's some podcasts that I've listened to that in their intro, the music is so loud, I can't even hear what the show is being introduced as. Or the music, you can't hear it at all. Like it's so faint that it doesn't even balance, or it doesn't add to the show. It's important to have a good mix. You want to have a good mix so that you can hear what is being said in the podcast and that you can also hear the music that's supposed to, be adding to the situation and adding to the episode. You want that. You want balance. It goes again to the first 2, low volume and high volume. You want a good balance so that those who are listening will have a good experience. That's definitely super important. It's like one of the most important things when it comes to podcasting is making sure that your listener is having a good experience. So number 3, bad music, vocal mix. That's not good. 4th is bad editing. So I'm sure some of you who are watching this on YouTube, maybe listening not on YouTube or whatever, but bad editing is when things are cut the wrong way. So say somebody's saying something and you cut at the wrong part, you're cutting off words, you're cutting off sentences, or say there is a gap. Say somebody's saying or ah, or there's a lot of like speech fillers that the speaker or whatever is using. You have to be careful when you're editing that stuff because you don't want it to be cut in a way that it doesn't seem natural. Because typically, as listeners, we know what speech sounds like. We know what having a conversation sounds like. We know what normal speech sounds like. And so if it's edited in a weird way, we'll notice it when we're listening to it. If something's cut too short or something's abrupt or like they run up against one another. So like instead of there being a pause, like everything is just overlapping. It's really, really close together. That's signs of bad editing, and you don't want that. Or even trying to move statements or elements of speech or elements of the content around, but it's disjointed. Like it doesn't make any sense. It's like, this is confusing. You want, again, the audience experience to be as smooth as possible, just like as if they're having a conversation with somebody. And it's just like, easy flowing, easy going. That's what you want in a good podcast. So yeah, definitely number 4, bad editing. Definitely try to avoid that as much as possible. And then number 5, awkward silences and or cuts. So just like, or very similar to number 4, bad editing, having awkward silences during like interviews or even during solo podcasts can be unsettling. And it can definitely start the rate. Brings up the cringe alert for the listener. Like awkward pauses is it's not fun. Even still, like in real life, if you're having a conversation with somebody, or if you're listening to a speech or somebody giving a lecture, awkward pauses make us feel uncomfortable. Like we don't like that. We want things to flow well, and it's not to say that you can't have pauses, but there's nicely placed pauses, Like that was probably a really awkward pause. I'm just sitting here staring at the camera and not saying anything. That's awkward, So that's another bad thing that I've heard in some podcasts. It's just awkward silences. Like you don't want that. You don't want that at all. You want things, again, to flow as easily as possible and to be as pleasant to the listener as you can make it. Sometimes it can be hard. Like you recorded something and everything was just going wrong and you're trying your best to make the most out of it. That's understandable. Like the stuff that we make and the stuff that you'll create won't be perfect, and that's okay. But if you try to avoid these 5 things, you're going to be good. So number 1, low volume. Make sure your stuff is heard at a good volume consistently. Number 2, too high of a volume. Don't destroy your listeners' eardrums. Don't do that. And don't record too loud. 3, bad music and vocal mix. Make sure people can actually hear the music that they're supposed to hear, but also hear the vocals, hear the speech, hear the actual podcast that they're supposed to hear. Don't let it be too much or too little on either side. Number 4, bad editing. Keep things coherent and clear and easy flowing. And number 5, awkward silences. Try to avoid that stuff because, again, you don't want people to be cringing listening to your podcast. That is definitely not good. Thanks for watching another video. Cal-Pin Creations is dedicated to helping artists make art. And on this channel, I want to help you start making quality audio content on a budget. Until next time, subscribe to the channel, hit the like button, and make sure the notifications are on. Cost does not have to stop you from creating. So, go make something.